Commemorate your first Notre Dame game or that of a friend or family member with a Notre Dame Football Heritage Project certificate. Visit ndcertificate.com to learn more.
We have to help him as an offense, make sure we're catching him. Ball might be a little bit low. We got to catch those balls. Some of the balls were uncatchable, but, that was just something that we have to make sure we're helping him. Now getting the snap, that's on him.
That's head coach Marcus Freeman talking about quarterback Drew Pyne's first start last week in Notre Dame's 24-17 win over Cal. Hello again, everybody. I'm Len Clark from Irish Illustrated, joined by the judge, Phil Houk of Fighting Irish Preview, as we will set the scene for tomorrow's game between the Fighting Irish with a record of 1-2 and the undefeated North Carolina Tar Heels, who enter the game at 3-0 with wins over Florida A&M, Appalachian State, and Georgia State. Phil Houk, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And quarterback Drew Pyne last week overcame a shaky start against the Cal Bears.
Yeah, shaky to say the least, Len. By the way, good to see you again. And shaky to say the least. The first 5 drives were disasters. And Steve Angeli's getting ready to, and everybody's saying you got to do something to change this. And you got to figure Steve Angeli's getting ready to maybe go in the game, maybe at after halftime if Pyne doesn't get it together. No first downs for the offense, Len, until the 13:36 mark of the second quarter. In the meantime, though, the Irish defense was keeping the Irish in the game pretty well, in fact, really well. So that was the good thing. And I wrote about it after the game. My article was a tale of 2 quarterbacks, because suddenly, after a little hard coaching that I think everybody saw and maybe some other motivation, and we also know that what we didn't see on the TV broadcast was that Marcus Freeman also got on his quarterback, chewed on him a little bit, as he admitted after the game, and got Drew Pyne's mind in the right place, and he turns it around. He hit 13 out of his last 17 passes, ends up with a very workmanlike day, 2 touchdown passes, no more fumbles, no more bobbled snaps, and lo and behold, the Irish turn it around. Pyne plays much better, workmanlike, I would say. And nothing spectacular here, and you're not going to get spectacular out of Drew Pyne, but he did turn this thing around, and the Irish notched their first victory.
Tough love by the Irish coaching staff, and it was alluded to in Marcus Freeman's press conference yesterday that you have to treat players a little bit differently, and Drew Pyne is the one who really wanted that. Get on my case, make me a better quarterback. But Phil, a big test for Notre Dame, being on the road for the second time this year against a very good North Carolina team. But if there's one area where they're weak, it's defense, and this might be an area for the Notre Dame offense really to click on all levels to come out with a big victory.
Well, it's not just one area. It's a huge area. This, Appalachian State, a pretty good team, a good team. Everybody knows that. He scored 40 points in one quarter against North Carolina, Len. 40 points, can you imagine? Notre Dame scored, 58 points for the whole season. So, maybe some opportunities there. This offense, however, very powerful for North Carolina. This kind of reminds me of 2020 a little bit, when the Irish went to North Carolina. A similar situation. It was expected that the Irish in that game would be able to exploit a weak defense. But that North Carolina's offense was top-notch that year. And lo and behold, Clark Lee's defense, Notre Dame's defense, went in and held North Carolina under 300 yards. I don't expect to see that this weekend. Drake May is spectacular, redshirt freshman, 6'5", escapability. He can run with the ball. He leads the country in touchdown passes. This offense is very powerful, very balanced. They run, they pass. They really do it all. It's amazing how they spread the ball out to different players, running backs, tight ends, wide receivers. But they're here. I'll give you a couple of numbers, and then I'll go back to you, Len. Tar Heels ranked, national ranks defensively, passing yardage allowed 112th, completion percentage allowance 121st, scoring defense 119th, total defense 123rd, rushing defense 112th. I think you get the picture. Notre Dame, if ever they were going to come up against a defense that they could exploit, it may be this weekend.
Earlier in the week, we had a chance to talk to the coordinators, offensive coordinator Tom Reese and quarterbacks coach, in addition to Al Golden of the defense. And let's listen to what Tommy Reese had to say about that North Carolina defense.
Yeah, it's a new scheme from last year, so it's certainly different in what they're presenting. They've done a really nice job recruiting. They got good personnel on both sides of the ball. They have some depth and some veteran guys up front. They have corners that I feel like have been there since we played on the 20, which they have. Two really good run and hit linebackers. So they're immensely talented. I know it's a new system for them. They're still trying to make sure they fine-tune their details.
And then let's listen to Al Golden, the defensive coordinator, about the offense that his defense will go up against.
Yeah, prolific is right. I mean, just answers at wide out, answer at tight end now playing really well for him. 3, maybe 4 running backs, depending on injuries and things of that nature. With Downs, they have a go-to guy, an explosive go-to guy, and they have a quarterback that can beat you with his arm or his legs. So, great challenge for us.
Great challenge for the Fighting Irish, according to Al Golden. But I think this is really going to be a breakout game for Notre Dame offensively, because I believe they're going to get the run game going. And in the staff picks for Irish Illustrated, I talked about the analogy of a boxer with another one on the ropes. I think if they continue to jab with Tyree, punch with Logan Diggs, and then deliver a knockout punch with Estime and pound, I think Notre Dame is going to control this ball game.
Well, you certainly saw that sort of scenario start to develop last week. After Drew Pine got his act together, the offensive line really got tremendous push, and that was against a Cal front that was really pretty good. One of the better ones that Notre Dame will see all season long. But the offensive line starting to gel. That's really important, and I really like, especially Audric Estime. I really think he's running the ball well. And the Irish finding ways to get the ball to Chris Tyree with a little space around him is good as well. So that can allow the Irish to slow down that North Carolina attack a little bit if they do to continue to develop that run game and can control the clock a little bit.
Phil, you mentioned the offensive line gelling. That's what Zeke Correll mentioned to us last week. Let's listen to his comments when I asked him, what was it that helped that offensive line gel?
We played together and we blocked the right way, and that all just starts with every individual guy doing their job. If each individual guy does their job, then the play will work out the way it's supposed to. So it's just got 5 guys not doing too much, not trying to do other people's jobs, just doing their individual job and playing together, and that's when things really start clicking for us. So more of that.
Phil Houk, it comes down to just do your job.
Yeah, and Correll really did his job last week. We were very concerned going into that game about the trouble that he would probably have with the Cal nose tackle, a 6'4", 335-pound Ricky Correa. But all day long, Correll just owned him. And signs that this offensive line is gelling, finally, after 2 really subpar games, particularly against Marshall, is good indeed. And Correll, at the center of everything, is one of the keys to that happening.
Well, that offensive line the past couple of games was like the first car I owned. Took a while to warm up, but when it ran pretty good. But facing North Carolina, an undefeated ball club, earlier in the week, I had a chance to talk with Jones Angell. He's the voice of the North Carolina Tar Heels from the North Carolina Tar Heel Radio Network. And let's listen to Jones as he talks about the North Carolina team that he's covering this year.
Well, for Carolina, Len, I honestly think it could be the same thing from this week until they prove that it's not this anymore. And that is, don't give up the explosive plays on defense. That is, slow down the run game, and especially against Notre Dame. They've got especially Estime, that big, powerful back. And Tyree is so quick back there. They are so good in the run game and so good in that offensive line. That will be important. And for the Tar Heels, I think just to stay with the plan offensively. Carolina has been really, really good on offense. This will be the most talented team, of course, that the Tar Heels have seen to this point. So can they stay with the plan? Can they continue to do the things that they have done successfully on the offensive side? To me, though, Len, really, it's Carolina's defense. That's the big question to this point for the Tar Heels, is can they take a step forward on that side?
Phil Jones Angell says it's the North Carolina defense that better bring their lunch pail and play a full game, because that's his key for a North Carolina win.
Yeah, and I think from their perspective, absolutely. I think they consider their offense to be a given in this game, that they're going to score points, and I agree. But if their defense can do anything to slow Notre Dame down, and they might be able to do that, but they're going to have to play better than they have to this point in the season. But if they do that, it could be a long day for the Irish.
That's a nice transition into the Fighting Irish previews, keys for a Notre Dame victory.
Yeah, on the offensive side of the ball, it's going to be to continue to develop that running game, and that is going to be just simply ground and pound, man. If the Irish can get first downs, and they're going to have to do it, and the other key is to do it from the start of the game. You can't have that 5 series lapse like Drew Pine had last week. So get a quick start. Run your offense, maybe take 1 or 2 shots. If you get 1 or 2 shots down the field, that's going to loosen things up and make that running game even more effective. On the defensive side of the ball, it's the defensive ends, man. It's Isaiah Foskey and it's Riley Mills primarily. And if those guys, it's not just the pass rush. They've got to contain Maine, who is a good runner. And we saw Drake Maine, or we saw last week, we saw Jack Plummer get out of that contain and scramble. Well, if Drake Maine does that, he's more of a running back. I mean, he can weave his way through traffic, and he's going to gain even more yards. So Isaiah Foskey, Riley Mills, good pass rush on Maine and contain him, and don't give up big runs. And that's a key for the Irish defense.
Notre Dame and North Carolina will tee it up Saturday afternoon at Kenan Stadium in Chapel Hill at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff. And Phil, this game over the past couple of years has been a very good game. It's very physical. It's a game that goes down to the wire. I use the word rivalry, but it's not really a rivalry. It's a very good standard test, if you will. And there's also a little bit of incentive, because there is a Notre Dame man who leads the University of North Carolina's director of athletics, and that's Bubba Cunningham. And I had a chance to talk with him about the future of the Notre Dame-North Carolina series, especially with that ever-changing landscape in college football. And here's his comments.
I think so. And I think the ACC is a very strong league. Notre Dame obviously being an independent in football in the league and everything else. I think it's good for Notre Dame. It's good for the ACC. And I think playing 5 games in the ACC each year is good, because it gets Notre Dame around the country, while they can also maintain those national relationships that are so valuable to them.
It's Bubba Cunningham. Of course, he wants to continue playing the Fighting Irish, although he says when he's watching that game, it's all North Carolina. But anytime a school has Notre Dame on its schedule, that is just going to add more incentive. It helps with recruiting, especially with a win. If you just ask the people down in Huntington, West Virginia at Marshall about what that's done to their program this year.
Well, the Irish really need the win too, and that gets them to a 500 score, 2-2. If the Irish drop to 1-3 going into the bye week, that's going to be a real bad sign for the rest of the season, particularly with BYU, Clemson, USC coming up. But if you can get to 2-2, you'll have some momentum going into the bye. The Irish need this game in the worst way. And Vegas agrees. This is a really, really close game. Going to be a good one. Offense versus defense. And who's going to flinch? I don't know. But I'm going to look forward to 3:30 in the afternoon on Saturday.
North Carolina and Notre Dame on Saturday afternoon. Follow Fighting Irish preview and Phil's thoughts after the game, in addition to at Irish Illustrated at irishillustrated.com, with the instant analysis prior to the game with Tim Priester and Tim O'Malley, and of course the post-game analysis with interviews with head coach Marcus Freeman and select players. Phil, have a great Saturday afternoon, and go Irish.